Commissioner, thank you. I believe you said earlier this might be your last hearing, and I just want to say thank you so much for all the many years of service. I appreciate it. And also appreciate your moderate approach to this. I'm from the border. Laredo's 96% Hispanic, most Hispanic city, percentage-wise in the country. I think people know my policies. You know, I like to see a moderate approach. We don't want to see open borders. We believe if somebody's put in detention, they ought to be treated fairly, but that we should have detention, have some sort of deterrence. At the same time, we believe in immigration reform, sensible immigration reform. At the same time, we think the wall is a 14th century solution to a 21st century problem that we have. So we like to see the moderation there because we want to see order at the border. And, you know, just don't want to get political, but if the folks that I represent on the border wouldn't give me 95, 90% of the vote every time I run. So I assume they support my policies, which is pretty much what you do also, a moderate approach. One of the things we've been talking about lately is to extend our border beyond the U.S.-Mexico border, because we spend billions of dollars on the U.S.-Mexican border. A couple years ago, I think we put about $85 million to help Mexico secure the southern border with Guatemala. I saw some figures that over a period of time, they actually deported more people than Border Patrol did over the same amount of time. So just $80 million did a lot to help Mexico for us to extend our border. We were in Costa Rica, the Cubans, that's a totally different issue. But we were there, the Costa Ricans were telling us in December that the people that are coming in trying to get into the U.S., they had people from Ghana, Somalia, Nepal, and literally name the country, and they were there. So my question to you, in extending the border out besides the U.S.-Mexico border, what else can we do to help the Mexicans and our Central American folks to help us secure our border? Because the more we stop outside the U.S. border, the better it is for us. So if you want to address biometric equipment, training we can do, I know you're doing that, but what can we do to step this up?
Congressman, I think the government of Mexico has done a really admirable job, particularly in the last year plus, on increasing and improving their border. CBP and other components of DHS have a number of advisors and technical assistants, both in places like Tapachula and other locations, but also within Mexico City. We visited the training center for those personnel. We visited the detention facility. I visited it particularly. They have made marked progress in the work that they've done, and I think we couldn't be more pleased with the government of Mexico as a partner in this. So we'll continue to look at, can we assist in biometric identification processes, other types of things. But I think the last thing, and probably the most important in all of this, would be that if those three Central American countries, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, had better safety, better security, a better educational system for people, and better hope for the people that live in those countries, they wouldn't be fleeing and making an incredibly dangerous journey to the United States. As Ms. Roybal and I sat on the floor with a father not that long ago and his 4-year-old daughter, and he said, you know, we had several murders down the street. He said, the last thing I needed to do is to leave my wife with one of our other children, and for myself and my daughter to flee, this is in El Salvador, to flee and try to get to the United States where his mother lives. But he said, I can't raise her in that environment. If those countries are more stable, I think people don't want to pick up and leave and come here.
Well, I hope you work with the State Department because, as you know, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, we added $750 million working with Kate Ranger, Chairman, for the Central America, the Northern Triangle. So hopefully you all are part of that process because the more we extend our security out instead of playing defense on the 1-yard line, but extend it to the 20-yard line, the better it is. So there were $750 million. Hopefully y'all will work with the State Department. Thank you so much for your time and effort in
It
your
would be
service.
really helpful to have an ambassador, too, in Mexico, to
Oh, I
be able
agree.
to work with.
I think Roberta Jacobson should be the ambassador, and it's unfair that she's been delayed for something that has nothing to do with Mexico. It's very unfair to Mexico. Dealing with trade, where are we on the full 2,000 CBP officers? I know at one time we were delayed because of a breach of security backgrounds. Where are we with that? And then tell us a little bit about the agricultural specialist staffing issue. And again, you know my history about Laredo being the largest and port, and then the valley has a lot of agriculture. So tell us where we are on those two issues.
Sure. One, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for speaking to our personnel when they have their large personnel meetings and talking to them about professionalism and their responsibilities and on and on. It means a great deal when a member of Congress spends time with them. So that's very helpful. We are about 700 Customs and Border Protection agents below what the 2,000 that we would have hired. And remember, we've had a lot of attrition. In December, we hit the highest number ever of Customs and Border Protection agents on board. So we're making progress with them. That's particularly helpful. We also did not ever have a staffing program or a workload analysis for our agriculture specialists. And quite frankly, after 2003 and the fact that we were put together as a result of that, combining in the Department of Homeland Security, it was all security all the time. And our agricultural specialists, who are the most highly educated, by the way, of our workforce, did not receive, in my estimation, as much support as needed. And when you think about the things that can harm this country, from pests and diseases in agriculture, we've worked pretty hard to try and improve and increase and show the recognition for the important work that they do. But this staffing model will be helpful.
Okay. The second question has to do with a letter that that Governor Abbott and myself wrote to the Secretary, and I see the response, and I told the Secretary I respectfully disagree, especially I think the Chairman said a while ago that you all are 12% below the goal for air interdiction officers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So if there's air crew vacancies, and we provided funding, full funding to the National Guard. And again, I disagree with the way the Secretary had looked at, and you know, he does a great job, and I appreciate it, where he was looking at it 1 month from January to December to January, when actually when you look at the longer one, it's it's actually 171% increase on just unaccompanied kids, 102% on families. But regardless of all that, but if we're short, we have vacancies. The National Guard got funded. I would ask y'all, without due respect to the letter I got from the Secretary, I would ask y'all to look at that again one more time, because, Mr. Chairman, I am going to request some language, especially if we fund it, that we put that back again, especially if your numbers are correct and they've been confirmed at 12% under the goal of air interdiction. And all we want to do is provide the men and women the support, air support. I can understand if we didn't provide the funding, blame Congress, but in this case, we did provide the funding. So again, you don't have to give an answer. I would just ask you to just respectfully consider our request again.
And we would never blame Congress.
And again, my last question, again, Commissioner, thank you for all. I wish you the best for the end of this year. And again, I really appreciate your dedication and the men and women that serve along with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.